And this is the Incongruous channel. And this is Dr. Andy Yates. And the purpose, if you recall, having listened to my first one, Thoughts Incongruous, the first YouTube video that I did on this channel, the idea is it's a kind of a download, a brainstorm, whatever you want to call it, following on from my show that I did on Saturday on Beetroot Radio. And they're available at www.beetrootradio.co.uk. And I do a show on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And a lot of people can't do that, of course, because they're busy. They have a life on a Saturday night, and I don't. So you can get those shows with the music removed for copyright reasons as podcasts on my website, www.drandyyates.com. All right, now all nice and playable. It's a nice, sexy website, brand new, just built. Enjoy. Now, what I'm going to do today is start off with a couple of conspiracy theories. I'm not sure if they're mine or I've picked them up from somewhere else. It's okay, whatever they are, just to get the ball rolling. And I think you'll enjoy them because that's what I enjoy as conspiracy theorists, talking about them. Don't necessarily believe all of them or any of them, but it all depends on what facts are on the ground. But you'll be interested in these. And then I'm going to talk about the trade deal with the devil. Okay, and that's about the US-UK trade deal. All right, so let's start with the first one, and it's about Trump. Donald Trump, the yellow-haired one, the orange-haired one, whatever he is. Okay, President of the United States. He's the one through his campaign, and still now, he talks about MAGA. He has it on his hat, MAGA, Make America Great Again, right? And the idea of that is what he said during his campaign is that he was going to close down on the rules, the laws, all these conflicts, the military influence and so on around the world, start pulling the connections in. It might be better to call them tentacles, because it's like some big hydra, some big cephalopod that sat there with its fingers fixed in the financial markets and also military intervention and also covert CIA type intervention, trying to cause regime change and stuff like that around the world. So this is kind of the way it is. And of course, if he pulled in those things, it would bring more America, allow that money to come into America. It would bring more to America and make them wealthier, internally wealthier, because their infrastructure is falling apart because they're spending everything on military. But there we are. So think about it. If that was what he truly wanted, because it's a funny old guy, Trump, nobody could kind of pin him down. And could he actually be just totally honest about that? Because he is straight and honest about things, and that's often what gets him in trouble. Well, maybe that's the case. Maybe he really wants to do this, and the way he's doing it is because he's trying these regime change and trade, putting charges on trade and tariffs and things like this around the world, upsetting everybody. And everybody's thinking, well, can you do trade with the US anymore? Can you trust them? The answer is no. They've pulled out of so many agreements that have been signed and agreed and been good deals, like the one with the nuclear one with Iran. They pulled out of that. And now they're sailing ships down to Iran. Do I think they'll invade Iran? No, I don't. It'd be an awful war. It would go on forever. It would be a terrible cost of lives. And although, yes, there's no doubt that the US has a greater military power than Iran, Iran won't ever give up, because theirs is a religious thing too. I mean, let's be honest, since the democratically elected president was assassinated by the Western powers, and then they brought in a king, the United States, who in 1776 moved away from a king, bring in a king because he's a king that's friendly to them and will give them a good deal on the oil and stuff. It's just crazy. And then that led to the Iranian war, the Islamic war. And so they ended up being an Islamic nation ruled by a theocracy. I mean, we Western powers created that. What do you expect? Anyway, so that's another thing. That's that thing about Trump, right? So because if he pisses everybody off, No one's going to work with him. That'll pull the tentacles out. They'll be rejected. And then we'll come to a different system. And it'd be nice because I like the American people. I really do. I lived there for 21 years. And it would be great if we could all be friends. And we could have deals, yes, that make some money and stuff like this, but they're good for us. And they're done in a sort of a friendly, cooperative way. That's how it should be, I think. But anyway, maybe Trump is energizing that, making that happen in his role to make America great again. Second conspiracy theory, and see what I like, I don't know if you ever watched the Ancient Alien programs, but part of the introduction used to be, I haven't watched it recently, it was kind of getting a bit silly at one point, but they had this phrase, what if it were true? What if it were true? That's a great phrase, give them credit for it. Well, what if it were true that when the Brexit referendum was carried out in 2016, and there was a small but significant majority towards leaving the EU. And so that was what was on the table. Everybody was shocked. David Cameron did a runner because he didn't expect that to happen. He took a risk and it failed. So then you end up, he got out the way. They want somebody to fill in the gap. They bring in Theresa May. But it was 8 months between that referendum and when it actually went to Parliament, I think so, and it went to Parliament and they wrote it into law. Up until that point, they could have spun it. They could have turned around and said, hey, well, look, we understand a lot of you don't like the EU, and we're going to put a committee together, we're going to work on this, we're going to do all this and do all that, and everything like this, and we will hold in mind that you have given your opinion in this way, because it was no more than an opinion. That's what a referendum is. Was no more than an opinion given by the British people. But no, they said, no, we're going to go, excuse me, we're going to go for it. And then 8 months later, there was a large majority in Parliament said, yep, let's go for it. Because we want to get away from this. We want to get our sovereignty back. We want to get control back and stuff like this. I mean, you have to know that in 1972, the Parliament chose to join the European Economic Community. That's what it was at the time. And in 1976, they went back to the people and said, you sound very unhappy about this. How do you feel? 66% said, yes, let's stay in the EU and adopt their laws. That's democracy. We decided that it's not like the EU. Some of the politicians act as if the EU have taken that away from us. They haven't. We gave it to them. We, with open arms, went in there into a friendly relationship. Now, I know the EU's changed since then, and I'm not arguing about the result, because to be honest, whether I'm in the EU as a British citizen, or I'm out of the EU as a British citizen, the people in charge are going to be rich, upper-class elites at the moment. And I think it's the same for you. And if you're not one of those rich, upper-class elites, what the heck does sovereignty mean to you or me? Does it make bread cheaper in the supermarket? No, of course not. Doesn't mean a thing. And this gain of the ability to change laws and stuff, do you think they're going to change for good reasons? Or do you think they're going to change as politicians have already said? So now we can build on the green belt. We don't need oxygen that we get from the plants. We can build on the green belt. We can bulldoze forests. We can do all this thing and build more houses and build more factories and build. And who makes money out of buildings? Rich, upper-class elite. Who owns the land that these things? Rich, upper-class elite. Sorry to go on so much about this, but if you haven't listened to my shows, you need to understand that how is a government made of postgrads from Oxford, what they got in common with you? Tell me that. What have they got in common with you? Maybe you have. Maybe you are a postgrad from Oxford. And good for you if you are. But really? You think they represent you? Do you think they feel it right here? Oh. Anyway, that's the other one, that the Brexit idea was to do a no-deal Brexit from day one. As soon as that referendum went and they went, oh my God, the public have said they want to leave the EU by a small but significant majority. Oh my God, what are we going to do? let's come up with a plan. I know, let's go for Brexit with a no deal. And then we can rewrite everything and throw Northern Ireland under the bus. What do we care about them? They've been nothing but trouble. Really? Because now they're talking about getting rid of the backstop. And the backstop, the Europeans not going to get rid of that. 27 countries there are going to turn around and say, oh, sure, we'll get rid of it because you can't make a decision and stuff. No, they're not going to get rid of it. And do you honestly think Boris Johnson has any other function than a popular figure with multiple affairs? And the latest thing was maybe he had a fight with his partner and it was heard in the street, the police were called, and he's taken pot and cocaine and all these kind of things like this. He's a popular guy. He's a popular guy. Eton, Oxford, yeah, he's a good old guy. He's one of us. He's one of us. Yeah, he really is. Yeah, you think? And you think he's going to be able to walk into the EU and look at a deal that's already been codified in law and say, yeah, throw that away. We're going to do another one now. You really think so? Well, let's see. You know, prove me right or wrong. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying, let's see. Anyway, let's move on to the trade deal. Because now we're coming out of the EU, assuming we are, that means we can have our own trade deals through the WTO around the world. Unless we have a trade deal with the United States. Because if we have a trade deal with the United States will control who we trade with. Shall I repeat that? The United States will control who we trade with because of the deal we make with them. And if we trade with people they don't want us to trade with, they'll put tariffs, sanctions, all kinds of things on us to force us into compliance with them. Let me read you the first part of the document, what I call the trade deal with the devil. And this was a document that came from the Office of the United States Trade Representative, and it was oversigned by the Executive Office of the President. So it's the real deal, right? And you can look it up online. It says, and I'm just going to quote this first bit. I wouldn't normally do this on this little thought dump, but I'm going to do this just quickly. The United States seeks to support higher paying jobs in the United States to grow the United States economy by improving United States opportunities for trade and investment with the UK. The UK's decision to leave the EU creates a new opportunity to expand and deepen the US-UK trade relationship. Is it all about trade, or is it all about that relationship and who controls it? They also want to establish a mechanism to remove expeditiously unwarranted barriers that block the export of US food and agricultural products. Then you've got to ask, well, what happens to our agricultural products? If we have this flood of US products coming in, how's that going to do the country any good? We've got to pay for them. What about our agricultural products? What about our butter, our cheese, our milk, our bread, our eggs? Produced by our farmers, British farmers. Is it going to help them? Of course not. It talks about food. And you see, the next bit talks about food. It says, establish new and enforceable rules to ensure that science-based SPS, that's sanitary and phytosanitary measures, are developed and implemented in a transparent, predictable and non-discriminating manner. Now let's unpack that. What they're talking about is chlorine-washed chicken. It's talking about the foods that are sanitized by an antibacterial method, that's antibiotics, right? And you know every drop of water on this planet has antibiotics in it now, right? You do know that. I mean, what we're talking about is allowing this poison to come into our country that they say is science-based, but it's not science-based, it's US science-based. And you must know, or you should know, how reliable organizations like the FDA, Federal Drug Agency, how reliable they are, because they're completely controlled by big business, big pharma, big agri, etc., etc. So their science, their idea of science is US science. You know, oh no, our scientists have said it's fine when we bung them a few $100,000. They say it's fine, so we can use it. The rest of the world says glyphosate causes cancer, but we say it doesn't. So that's the basis of the trade deal, that it doesn't cause cancer. So if we give you glyphosate inundated feeds or foods or seeds or whatever, hey, it's fine. GMOs, no, they're fine. They're GMO for a good reason, because we need to make them weed repellent so we can spray them with Roundup, and you'll be able to do that and increase your crops. And do you think there might be some rich people, some landowners, whatever, in the UK that might say, wow, yeah, glyphosate may be a bit dodgy, but boy, I can multiply my output by 3 times. And if I do that for 10 years, I can retire to the Cayman Islands along with Richard Branson and have a great life and just sit out there in a tax haven and we'd be fine. Really? You think? Do you think? Do you think they'll say, no, I won't do that because I have too much respect for the common people of this country, for the great unwashed. I care so much about them that I'm not going to do something like this. What do you think? Do you think that's what they taught them at Eton and Oxford? Really? Okay, moving on. So that's the way it's about. They want to keep flexibility for non-conforming measures of trade in services. And remember, the services we're talking about are financial services. There are 2 major financial services hubs in the world, New York City and the City of London. Basically, they want a piece of the City of London. No! That's the only thing. That's actually, services are 80% of our gross domestic product. And at least half of that is financial services. That's what's keeping us afloat. That's what we've got to sell. Unfortunately, that means we have to keep the Commonwealth and all that stuff, because we've got to have those tax havens and stuff so that we can do business that way. I mean, whatever. Hey, I'm taking too long here. And then they're talking of procedural fairness for pharmaceuticals and medical devices so that they can bring their pharmaceuticals, their medical devices, which are kind of dodgy, going to bring them in. Yeah, it's just too much. But here's the thing, because one of the ideas was that we were going to leave the EU and then that would give us freedom, again, freedom to trade wherever we want. And in that US trade deal, it says, and this is according to CNN, the US document also attempts to regulate the UK's relationship with third countries. Yeah, just turning the page. For example, it would constrain the UK's ability to sign a trade deal with China by creating a mechanism to, quote, take appropriate action if the UK negotiates a free trade agreement with a non-market country. Countries like China, like Iran, like India, I think. I just think to myself, well, wait a minute. Iran's got a lot of oil. We'd like to keep a relationship with them. We know the Americans hate them. I don't know why. They killed their president. Whoops. Haven't you done enough? But no, they hate them. China is the source of pretty much everything. Go down to Rushden Lakes and have a look in there, the shopping centre. Every label says made in China. There's a few that might say made in Romania or made in El Salvador or something, but most say made in China. That's where we get stuff from. They're also the source of those rare minerals that we need for computer parts and things like this. They're not a good country. It's kind of, their people are kind of oppressed and stuff. Nevertheless, if we're looking for the good of our country, then I don't think we should cut them out of the deal. What else we got? India. Well, India we used to be British. We've ripped them off, stole pretty much everything from them. Now they're a huge country heading towards being one of the world's superpowers. We really need to try and mend that relationship and stay friends with them. So what I'm trying to say is, do we really want to say, hey, we're fed up with the control that the EU has had on us. We're going to take that control and give it to the United States. Do you think the United States under Donald Trump is more reliable and fairer and kinder to its allies than the EU? There's a straight question. What do you think? What do you think? That's what it's all about. Okay. So this is the Incongruous channel. That was on my show I did on last Saturday on Beetroot Radio. Of course, there'll be another one on this Saturday, which is going to be specifically about NHS, which of course Donald Trump said should be on the trade deal, by the way. The NHS and focusing on privatization of the NHS, because we've been chopping pieces off it. That's my show on Beetroot Radio, www.beetrootradio.co.uk, Saturday, 8 p.m. GMT. If you can't listen to it, a couple of days later, I will have posted it to my website, www.dr28s.com, where you can listen to it as a podcast without the music. Easy to use, simple, reliable. And that's it. Please, if you enjoyed this or were stimulated by it and it got your intellectual juices going, please like, share, and subscribe. Remember, subscribing doesn't mean paying any money. It's free. All it means is whenever I post a new little chat like this, you'll get a notification through your email. Hey, by the way, Andy Yates has posted a new Incongruous video. And you'll be able to check it out and say, oh, there's that idiot again with his dogs messing around in his house and maybe even the wind blowing in the background, because it's a lovely, sunny, windy English day here. It's gorgeous. This is the Incongruous channel. I'm Dr. Andy Yates. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Take care.